Welcome to the AI for Technical Writers podcast. This is episode 104. I'm Fred, and joining me today is Daphne.
Hi, everyone. Hello to all our documentation specialists, technical writers, and IT professionals tuning in. We know your world is changing fast, really driven by these infrastructure challenges that feel less technical sometimes and, well, more geopolitical every day.
That's a really good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah.
Today we're looking at a crucial piece actually suggested by our producer, senior technical writer, Curt Robbins. It connects the dots between, AI's massive growth, its huge energy needs, and some frankly surprising new regulatory approaches emerging globally.
Right. The analysis is from an article titled The Strategic Convergence of AI, Energy, and Regulation, Lessons from Yotta and Saudi Arabia's Data Center Ambitions. It was published by Jeanina Awni. She's Director of Technology and Innovation at Mikial Law Firm on LinkedIn back on September 19th, 2025.
And our goal here is pretty straightforward. Pull out the key insights from this material for you. Because, if you're the one documenting this stuff, the future operational, the legal environment for AI infrastructure, well, looks like it's getting complicated.
Compliance is definitely going to need a rethink if these models catch on.
Let's start with that Yotta Data Center conference in Vegas. What really stood out?
Well, what's fascinating is how the conversation shifted. You'd expect tech talk, right? Faster chips, better algorithms.
Yeah.
But it pivoted pretty dramatically. The focus became almost entirely on the legal side, regulatory issues, and, geopolitical complexity.
So less about the how and more about the where and under what rules.
Exactly. The big theme for anyone building data centers now was sustainability. Like this urgent need to match aggressive AI growth with energy strategies that actually last. We're fundamentally rethinking what a data center is.
Okay, so how are they being rethought?
We heard from major players, Microsoft, Bloom Energy, Crusoe Energy. They all hit this point. Data centers aren't just server farms anymore. They're being envisioned as these sophisticated energy factories.
Energy factories. That sounds like a big shift.
It impacts everything: design, operations.
So for our listeners, the documentation specialists, what does that mean day to day? If energy efficiency is the new mandate, how does that show up in the docs?
It means your documentation, hardware integration guides, process docs, SLAs, it all needs to explicitly include energy metrics now. It's not just uptime and latency anymore. You're potentially documenting carbon accounting and service level agreements, new compliance checklists for cooling efficiency, maybe detailed guides for battery reuse systems.
Wow.
Your standard operational manual. It's basically becoming a sustainability report in waiting.
That's a huge change and sounds immediate. But you said that the talk at Yotta also got, darker when it came to risk.
Yeah, that's right. Experts like Mark P. Mills, Nate Franklin, they put out a pretty stark warning. The biggest threat might not be technical failure or, running out of power anymore.
Okay.
It's the potential for deliberate physical attacks on data centers. Kinetic targeting. Suddenly, these facilities are national security assets or targets.
Right. That definitely raises the stakes.
And that shift in strategic risk, it leads directly to the next kind of mind-bending infrastructure idea. If these huge fixed data centers on Earth are now strategic liabilities, well, you need alternatives for resilience, for continuity.
Which brings us to space.
Yeah.
Data centers in orbit. That sounds like science fiction.
It does, but the article makes clear it's a serious proposition. It's driven by that need for geopolitical insulation, regulatory stability.
So is this just theory? Or is stuff actually happening?
Oh, it's happening. The experiments are moving fast. Lone Star Data Holdings, for example, they've already run tests on the International Space Station. They even sent a server to the moon just to see how it handles that extreme environment.
To the moon.
And there are big partnerships. Axiom Space and Red Hat. They put a prototype on the ISS too, focusing on edge AI processing, secure processing up there.
Edge AI in orbit.
But maybe the most ambitious one mentioned is StarCloud. They're apparently prepping a satellite launch with powerful GPUs. The goal: to train the first large language model actually in orbit, not just storage. High-level AI training happening off-planet.
Training an LLM in space. Okay, my head's spinning a bit. What does this do to legal frameworks? Who governs that?
Exactly. It throws everything into chaos, legally speaking. If you've got GPU-heavy infrastructure orbiting Earth, whose laws apply, the article mentions experts are starting to talk about, get this, maritime-style jurisdictional frameworks.
Maritime law for space. How does that even work? For someone writing a contract or an audit trail, what does maritime style practically mean?
Well, think about a ship on the high seas, right? It flies a flag. It operates under the laws of the country whose flag it flies, no matter where it is geographically. Applying that idea to space means an orbital data center might operate under the regulatory umbrella of whoever launched it, like a nation or maybe a consortium. Sovereignty is defined by treaty and flag, not physical land borders.
Okay, so the SLA for that StarCloud LLM, it wouldn't necessarily follow US or EU privacy rules just because the data might originate there. It follows the laws tied to the satellite's flag, its agreed upon jurisdiction.
That's the idea, which means if you're documenting this, you're not just tracking geographic borders anymore. You're documenting compliance based on this negotiated, almost diplomatic status.
Diplomatic status for a satellite.
Yeah. Can things like sovereign immunity, stuff usually for embassies on Earth, apply to orbital infrastructure? These are huge open questions your documents need to start reflecting, or at least acknowledging the ambiguity of.
That is profoundly complex.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so escaping Earth's rules by going orbital is one strategy. Let's pivot back to Earth and look at how a major player is using legal innovation to attract data centers.
Right, let's talk about Saudi Arabia. Under their Vision 2030 plan, they are moving very aggressively. We're talking a $6 billion commitment from their public investment fund just for data centers, plus a huge $100 billion AI initiative overall.
So they're not just building capacity, they're changing the rules.
They're experimenting with the legal foundation of data storage itself. It's quite strategic.
Which leads to this concept in their draft Global AI Hub Law, data embassies. What are those?
It's a really sophisticated idea designed purely to reduce geopolitical and regulatory risk for foreign companies. Imagine a data center physically inside Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay.
But legally, it operates under the jurisdiction of a foreign state, like a legal bubble providing insulation.
That is clever. So if I'm, say, a German company, I could use a data center in Riyadh, but my data is treated legally as if it's still in Frankfurt under GDPR, not Saudi law. That seems to be the core concept. The draft law even outlines 3 specific models for this: private hubs, extended hubs, and virtual hubs. They offer different levels of autonomy and legal separation, giving global companies flexibility depending on their needs and the data sensitivity.
And is this attracting investment? It sounds like it would.
It certainly seems to be. Microsoft and AWS are already setting up cloud regions there, and the article mentions major talks happening with Elon Musk's xAI and also the Saudi AI firm Humane for really massive infrastructure projects.
Okay, let's pause here for a moment. Let's take a brief break for a special message from our producer, Curt Robbins.
Hi, this is Curt Robbins. First, thanks for listening. I truly appreciate your support. I want to let you know that I'm currently accepting new clients. My rates are affordable, and I have more than 25 years of experience working for enterprise companies like Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, Oracle, PNC Bank, FedEx, USAA, and Wells Fargo, among many others. If you want to improve your IT documentation and communications, hire me. I deliver fast, know how to use AI to improve efficiency and accuracy, and love going the extra mile to satisfy my clients. Thank you for subscribing and listening. Back to you, Daphne and Fred.
Welcome back to the AI for Technical Writers podcast. All right, so we've established Saudi Arabia is building huge capacity and using innovative legal structures like data embassies to attract global players. But this massive growth must come with some serious regulatory oversight, right? What do technical writers need to know about the actual compliance framework?
Oh, absolutely. The scale itself demands it. You mentioned the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology, MCIT, and the Saudi Data and Artificial Intelligence Authority, SDAIA. Their goal is up to 1.5 gigawatts of data center capacity by 2030. That's enormous.
1.5 gigawatts. Wow.
Yeah, when governments aim that high, you can bet the rule book is going to be detailed and mandatory.
So who's writing the rule book?
The key body here is the Communications, Space, and Technology Commission, the CST. They've put out the formal data center regulation, and a core part of it is a tiered registration system for providers. Limited, standard, and advanced. This is critical.
Tiered registration.
Yeah.
Okay, why is that so important for documentation?
Because that tier basically dictates your entire compliance documentation package, what gets you into a higher tier. Things like independent certifications, proven sustainability practices, network neutrality guarantees.
So operating at the advanced tier means a completely different set of manuals, audit docs, everything compared to limited?
Absolutely. It's not just descriptive documentation at that point. It's prescriptive. Your docs for an advanced center need to show verifiable proof you meet those higher standards for, say, energy efficiency or neutrality. They define the targets for audits.
Got it. Beyond the tiers, what specific documents does the draft regulation call out? Things the listeners need to be ready to produce right now.
Yeah, the draft is pretty specific on required outputs. Things like mandatory insurance disclosures, those need to be crystal clear in the documentation. Also, comprehensive SLA transparency box, which, are always tricky,
Tell me about it.
and detailed continuity planning elements, especially disaster recovery and data retention, which gets extra complicated if data is sitting in one of these insulated embassy jurisdictions. Basically, your compliance lives or dies by the quality and completeness of these documents.
Okay, so whether we're talking about data centers operating under weird maritime law in orbit, or these terrestrial data embassies creating legal safe zones in the Middle East, it feels like the core challenge is the same. Technology is sprinting ahead, and the legal and regulatory frameworks are racing to keep up.
That's exactly it. The growth opportunity is huge, but it's tangled up with all this emerging legal complexity. And who's caught in the middle, bridging that gap? Technical writers and documentation specialists. You're the ones translating high-level international law concepts into concrete, operational, auditable standards.
That really sums up the challenge ahead, doesn't it? So maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on.
I think it's this. Start thinking about how your documentation, everything from SLAs to continuity plans, needs to adapt. Adapt to a reality where data sovereignty isn't just about physical location on a map anymore. It's about jurisdiction. And that jurisdiction might be defined by a data embassy's special status, or by a satellite operating under some kind of maritime framework way up in space. Location and jurisdiction are decoupling.
Jurisdiction, not just location. That's the key shift. A lot to think about. Thank you for listening to the AI for Technical Writers podcast, where we help you get smarter than your competition. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We'll see you next week.